This video will record the material for quiz 1, which we cover percentages and proportions. So if you don't have these notes in front of you, you will want to open them up through the quiz, or you can always find the notes from the home page where there's a calendar. I have the notes listed by unit on the left-hand side. So let's jump in. Percentages are based off two words, percent. And cent literally means 100. So other words that have 100 are like centennial. Centurion is a Roman officer of 100 soldiers. Or centimeter means 1/100th of a meter. So percent literally means per 100. So let's look at some examples of percents. 70%. Maybe you got a 70% on your test. That literally means 70 per 100 over 100. So we write 0.7 as a decimal. That's what that is. But we often write that equivalently as 70%. These are exactly the same thing. That means 70 points out of 100 you got on that assignment. Okay, let's rewrite some other things as percent. 0.24, how would I write that as a percent? Maybe you can do this like in a split second in your head because you know the trick, which is great. But even if so, or if not, check this out. 0.24 equals some percent, question mark, over 100. Some number over 100, right? I want to know what percentage that is. Well, something percent is 0.24. So now this is some basic algebra. How could I solve this for my unknown up here? Let's call it x. Here we can multiply both sides by 100. That's an algebraic trick, so we can cancel. And if we take 0.24 times, notice my time is a little bit of a dot, or you can use an asterisk. The reason we don't use x, 0.24 times 100, it looks like a variable x. So I will not be doing this in this course. I will always use a little star or a dot for my multiplication sign. In any case, what this becomes is 24. 24% is our final answer. So the other trick you might be familiar with is if you want to change a decimal into a percent, you move the decimal place 2 over to get to the percent. So those are all things you may know already, but let's put that all together. And it gives you a better understanding of some of the things we're going to do with percentages in a little bit. Okay, so next problem, see if you can do this on your own. What's 3/4 as a percent? If you do the same thing, x over 100, 3/4 is the same as 0.75. Well, if I multiply the 100 on both sides, I'm going kind of quick, but let me show my work here. X divided by 100. If I multiply both sides by 100, I get 75%. And then number 3, check that one on your own. That one you should get 200%. So 2 is the same thing as 200%. So doubling something is the same thing as saying 200% of. So that's actually something that like people say a lot. They use percentages when they really mean like multiplicative factor. Okay, let's make some room for the next example. Okay, taxes. Taxes involve percentages. So if I have a sales tax of 9.5, it recently went up. It used to be 9%, now it's 9.5. And so what are you going to pay on a $140 purchase? Oh, I got to fix my notes here. There's an error. This should say 9.5. And this should say 9.5 here. I'll fix that. So 9.5, we'll want to first make it into a decimal, which, 9.5 divided by 100 is 0.095. You can check that with your calculator. And so if I'm saying percent is part over whole, that's what a percent is. We're taking some part of something over a whole and making it into a percent. I can say, okay, my 9.5% over 100, that's the same as my 0.095, right? That's the same thing as my tax paid over 140. Because I'm using this equation part over whole. So part, the tax is my part, 140 is my whole. So again, we have some basic algebra here. Let's multiply both sides by 140 to cancel out the 140. And what this shows you is to find tax of something, we take 140, the total amount, times the tax rate. So this should say 9.5 here, 0.095. So that's going to change the answer a little bit. It's not going to be this. It's going to be a little bit more. So that'll be your first quiz question. And then with that, I'll leave you to do some homework problems. You can practice these topics on your own. And then I should mention a little bit about percent change. Sorry, next time I'll maybe break these videos up a little more. But another topic that is very important in this unit is percent changes. When we have a percent and we're adding something or subtracting that amount that results in a change. So if we hear something like tuition is rising 6% annually, what does that mean? Okay, let's look at the in-state tuition. Let's say that's our tuition. Well, if it's rising 6%, that means we take 6% of this value and add it back in. Okay, so we'll take 3,195. To find 6% of it, we'll say 0.06, right? That's 6 divided by 100. And that's how much money tuition is increasing. It's going up by that amount. So to find the next year's tuition, we're going to have to add that back in. So we're going to take the original tuition plus the increase to get a new total for in-state tuition. So see if you can figure out on your own what the increase for out-of-state tuition will be. You'll have to use this number here. Oh, why is it doing that? This number here, you're going to find 6% of that and add it back in. Okay, so that's your quiz question. And then I think the rest of these are homework problems. Okay, so the last little topic, it's kind of just a one that falls in here nicely, is proportions. You'll notice a percent is a proportion, but I could have any kind of proportion. I could have something over 100, I could have something over 12, something over 60. This would be like hours in a day, minutes in an hour. So proportions are used for comparing lots of things, and let's at least look at the algebraic way to solve proportions. So I have two proportions here. It's a math problem, really. X over 10 is the same as 13 over 5. How could I find x? Let's just do a little bit of algebra. This one right here, you can multiply both sides by 10 to solve for x. So x is now, you could just run this in your calculator, 13 over 5 times 10. So that one's not too bad. But what about this one here? This one gets a little trickier. I'm going to write it over here. 4 over 5 equals 6 over x. Now the x is on the bottom. What do I do here? Well, really what I have to do is I have to multiply the x by both sides to get the x on the top. Boom. I get x times 4 over 5 times 6. And then I divide by 4 over 5. Sorry, equals 6. So follow along. Make sure you can do this. So 6 divided by 4 over 5. That's just kind of a mess. That's one approach. But if you follow the same process and abstract some of the patterns, it becomes the same thing as, where's my original problem? Okay, so here's my original problem. What we can do, a nice little trick, is you can cross multiply. You can take the opposites and multiply them against each other. So 4x equals 6 times 5. It's a lot simpler. So I got 30 equals 4x, then you can divide by 4. 30 divided by 4. So that's an easy way to do proportions. So we'll do the rest of these examples in your written homework. And so for now, just take a minute to digest this, complete the quiz, and then we'll see you on the written homework problems.